Design is more than just aesthetics. It influences how we understand and interact with the world. By bringing together students, industry leaders, and visionaries, Jaipur Design Week creates a platform for knowledge exchange, new opportunities, and a shared vision for the future design of India. It's my pleasure to invite our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dheeraj Sanghi, to present a floral bouquet to welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Param Venkatraman, and our guest of honor, Mr. Vaibhav Kumresh.
हाँ ठीक है भाई फोटो फोटो गए ना ठीक है मनन फोटो 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 ठीक है वीडियो भी चलेगा फोटो भी ले लेगा ना अरे ज्योति वो दे यार मेरे को वो यूएस दे मैं भी खींचता फोटो के लिए यूएस एसी वाला कैमरा हाँ लाता में अंदर से रुक जाओ बोल देना किसी को लिया आएगा लोग तो नहीं है हमारे पास मिनी
I would also like to invite Professor Dheeraj Sanghi, our Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Alka Mahajan, Director of Institute of Design Professor A. Balasubramaniam, and our keynote speaker Param Venkatraman to join on the stage for ceremonial lamp lighting, officially marking the beginning of this incredible journey.
001 जहाँ पे WhatsApp हुआ था then 001 जो भी देख
Would also like Vaibhav Kumresh to come on the stage for lamp lighting.
आगे फिर इसमें हीटिंग की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है किसकी हीटिंग की हाँ थोड़ा बहुत है वो तो वही मर जाता है अभी देखना सब बंद हो जाएगा थोड़ी देर में 10 मिनट के लिए बंद हो जाता है अच्छा A7R4 ना FX3 बहुत बेटर है उसके सेम प्राइस है यार बट फोटो का क्या करूँगा फिर उसी हिसाब से मैं अभी भी बोलूँ A7S2 के भी बोल गया मेरा एसबी वाला है ना वीडियोग्राफर जो इसका आता है वो लेके आता है FX3 अंकुर वाले के इवेंट में आया था FX3 लेके और फोटो खींचने के लिए FX3 से
हेलो हाय दीपक सर सर ये सेशन यहाँ पे स्टार्ट हो गया है ये ओह अच्छा ओके ओके ठीक है
आयुष
इज नॉट इन जयपुर
ये 001 में भी नहीं 006 में भी नहीं हेलो
Thank you, everyone. I request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dheeraj Sanghi, to stay back and share a few words with us.
few words शेयर कर रहे हैं few words शेयर कर रहे हैं सर मैं पीछे आ गया हूँ 2 मिनट रुकेंगे few words उसको नहीं रुके ना भाई पहुंच गए वो क्या हो गया इंडिया था
It's my proud privilege to welcome all of you to the inauguration ceremony of this great event, Jaipur Design Week. We really hope that this kind of activities, the Jaipur Design Week, would result in people letting people know that how design is important in everyday life. In fact, just before this event, I was talking to Bala. Yesterday I was at Mohali Stadium and I was watching this match between Rajasthan Royals and Punjab Kings, right? And the whole experience, I felt that BCCI must hire a large number of designers to make sure that people like me, when they go and watch the match, we have the right experience. Uh, and the kind of examples I was giving Bala was, see, 7 o'clock is the toss. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to be there between 6:30 and 7, which means 50,000 people are going to show up in half an hour window. Do you have enough, X-ray scanners and security guards and all those things to enable 50,000 people to walk in? You don't, and therefore there is chaos. Yesterday the whole place was lathi charged, and all those things happened because there was just too much of people breaking barriers and all those kinds of things. Right? Why can't we design the experience in a way that people love to come before 6:30? Right? Why can't I be there at 6 o'clock? If there is something interesting happening before the cricket, I might prefer to do this. Right? What if my parking is such that a public bus parking is right next to the stadium while the car parking is 2 kilometers away, enabling buses to be, carrying a large number of people quickly. So there's so many things I could think about, that would have enabled my experience of watching that cricket match to be so much better than what it is. And I can tell you, I've probably watched 15, 20 matches so far in the last 10 years. Every year I watch at least 2 matches. And the experience, of course, I should also say Jaipur SMS Stadium experience has always been extremely positive and different. But all other places, whether it's Delhi, whether it's Bangalore, whether it's Ahmedabad, whether it's Mohali, is the same experience that nobody seems to know anything about what's going on. Right? And therefore, I think the future of design is very bright, because I'm pretty hopeful that one day the government and the various organizations will realize that these are solvable problems, and people don't have to be in queue for 1 hour to enter. We missed 4 overs yesterday, and those 4 overs, Rajasthan Royals scored about 40 runs. I mean, I was really so sad about it, right? And this is when we were there outside the stadium at 6:30. We couldn't enter till 7:30. Right? So I think the future of design is very bright, but only if people who take these decisions, whether it is government, whether it is large organizations like BCCI and all that, they understand that these are solvable problems, and the design students and design faculty and the designers can solve these problems. And Jaipur Design Week is our way to contribute to this, letting people know that design is something that is, very important and can solve societal problems. So once again, let me take this opportunity to welcome you all to the serene campus of JKLU. Those who have come from outside, please do look at our campus, do talk to our students, our faculty, and so on. And I'm sure you will enjoy your stay here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for inspiring words and setting a tone for this exciting week ahead. Now I invite Professor Ibala to take the stage to talk about Jaipur Design Week.
Welcome to the 3rd edition of Jaipur Design Week. It's more than just a design festival. It's a curated celebration of ideas, where boundaries blur between disciplines and inspiration flows freely between students, educators, and professionals. I'm thankful to all the professionals who joined us in the celebrations and our motley group of students who made this happen. We are keen on engaging design professionals to teach and train our students, as well as outsiders who are curious about our curriculum and our pedagogy. We wanted to celebrate our students' achievements and showcase our programs to the rest of the world. We wanted to excite the young school students to consider a career in design. All these 3 stakeholders come together for an exciting 7 days, 8 if you include today. And in these 3 years, we have grown from strength to strength. Now every city is now starting a design week. We We wanted to create an event that celebrated, communicated, and appreciated good design. At JKLU, we believe in the power of design. Time and again, we have engaged with organizations in the city and helped propagate the value that design brings to the table. To further amplify the power of design, we encourage design institutes, design aspirants, design industries, and professional designers to participate in a variety of ways. We have invited school children from famous neighborhood schools to participate in activities that educates them as to how designers think and work. We have shared our work and process to other design institutes as well, so that they join us in celebrating successful design projects. We got a rousing response to a call to professional designers who join us this week to celebrate the subtle and the special nuances of design. We got designers from near and far, each one excelling in one field or the other. You are all invited to take advantage of this and participate in as many events as possible. Join our open studios to learn with our students. Get your hands dirty with workshops, what we call as deconstruct. Visit our MP Ranjan JKLU Center for Design Resource to find the most rare and well-curated set of design books. Listen to our presenters who have come a long way in their profession and are willingly sharing their award-winning career journey. See your students students work in the design exhibit in the IOD building and get a feel of our unique programs and the creative outputs. Enjoy networking with the industry mentors and academic professionals who are here to guide you. The highlight of the week will be the Emerging Designer of the Year recognition. This year's recipient, Manan Pawar, embodies the very spirit of innovation that Jaipur Design Week stands for. A graduate of NID Ahmedabad, Manan's rapid transition from industrial design to service to behavioral design in 4 years has made him a name to watch. A committed mentor, thoughtful practitioner, and a bold thinker, he is proof that future of design is in capable hands. As the curtain raises on the Jaipur Design Week 2025, one thing is certain. This is not just an event, it's an experience. With an unmatched lineup, an open community, and an ethos rooted in experimentation, JDW promises to be once again a landmark celebration of design that shapes minds and moves industries. Thanks for being here. Don't just attend, immerse, explore, transform. Jaipur Design Week is where the future of design unfolds, and you don't want to miss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bala, for officially marking the beginning of GDW 2025. This event is a result of your visionary leadership and unwavering belief in the power of design. As a torchbearer of this initiative, you set a path for all of us to follow. It is now time for one of the most awaited moments of our inaugural session, our keynote address. We are privileged to have with us today Param Venkatraman, a visionary in the field of design, co-founder of Three Big Things, a behavioral design studio. With over 27 years of experience in design and innovation across companies like IDEO, Fractal.ai, Tata Digital, and Dr. Reddy's, Param has played a key role in building strategic design cultures. He's passionate about design thinking and creating meaningful impact at the intersection of design, data, and behavior. I now invite Venkatraman to the stage. Let's welcome with a big round of applause. Can you hear me?
Good evening, all. Firstly, thanks to Bala for having me here. Thank you to the VC, Pro VC, and faculty for having me here as well. Students, thank you for inviting me and being constantly in touch with me over the last few weeks and getting me here and making me feel at home. It's been a pleasure coming to the campus for the first time, and I'm really excited about the future of design in India. My talk today is titled Design Future Continuous. The overall theme of this event was told to me as futurism. And as I was thinking about that, I felt that design is in a state today, and for that matter, I guess a lot of professions, not just design, are in that state of future continuous right now. So I'm going to share a few thoughts on what that might look like and how it might emerge, and what might be some ways to think about it as we all are figuring this future continuous together. Nadia will help me with the presentation going next from slide to slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about a very quick, again, you might have all seen the bio, seen the detailed resume. That's a little boring, so I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to myself. That's me. Since there are a lot of Gen Z people here, I thought let me do a hello in a Gen Z kind of avatar. Next slide. As someone who did the introduction said, I was fortunate enough to be at IDEO. I was part of their leadership team in India, and it's one of the most defining moments of my career. But more than that, I got to learn a lot about design from IDEO when I was there. Post that, next slide. I was part of Dr. Reddy's, where I helped set up a innovation lab called Studio 5B almost 10 years back. And the whole idea was to do patient-centric innovation in healthcare, and that was something that really resonated with me. And I was fortunate enough to do that kind of work, and one of the most gratifying phases of my life. Next slide. And post that, I got to work with Fractal Analytics, Fractal.ai, way before AI burst on the scene a couple of years back, and took over our world as we know it now. And I had the opportunity to work on the intersection of design and AI. In fact, coincidentally, that's where I worked with Manan, since you mentioned his name. And so it's been a great journey from there. Next slide. Let's go forward. Now, what I do is I'm an entrepreneur for the last 1.5 years, and I co-founded some behavioral design studio called Three Big Things. And we are a behavioral design studio, which is an emerging concept. It's a fairly new concept in the country, but also in the world. And we are working with clients in helping them create design for behavior change. And that's at the heart of what we do. And again, if you get time, I'll talk more about that as we get into it. Next slide. All right, let's get to the topic of what I wanted to share with you today: design, future continuous. Next slide. And to understand that, let's talk about it in 3 chapters, right? The first chapter is what I call the journey so far. I feel really bad for going on telling you next slide. It's like I wish I had the control here, but we'll have to live with that. Next slide. Design started in the world many years back, decades back, where people came to designers and said, "Make this pretty," right? How many of us can relate to that? A lot of people designers even now and say, "Make this pretty," right? So the world had started with design like that. Then people started coming and saying, "Make this better," right? Whether it was a vacuum cleaner, whether it was a ceiling fan, whether it was a chair, table, whatever it was, people started thinking about design from the perspective of making it better, functionally better. Next slide. That's what this is, right? So how do you make it functionally better? Right? If a chair can a chair be more ergonomic? Can it be more comfortable to sit in? So at that level of functionality, right? Or if I'm holding a mug of coffee in my hand, how do I make sure that it's hot, but it's not hot enough that I can't hold it, right? That's functional improvements. Next slide. But then people started also coming to designers for saying, "Can you make this better experientially?" Which means, for example, like what Professor was talking about, that you're going to a place and it's a stadium, you're watching a large match. Can I have the experience of watching the match, right? And that's the kind of experiences that we can actually design, and people are now coming to us for, right? Next slide. The next stage of design, that's 2 years back, and companies like IDEO was thinking about more fundamental questions beyond designing products or designing services, which is, who should we design for? Why should we make whatever it is that we are making for them? Why should we make it? Why should they care about it? And what should we make in the first place? Right? A lot of the work that I was involved with over the last 10 years has been about this. It's not about designing the thing, but it's about first figuring out what to design, what to make in the first place, and not just what to design. And so that has happened the last several years as design has progressed in the world. Again, the big caveat is, of course, that not everyone has progressed this far. There are still pockets of the world where still people think of design as make it pretty, right? I'm acknowledging the fact that this is not a consistent transition. But yes, there have been pockets of this transition over time. So essentially, the world has moved. In the world of design, we've all seen that change from the tactical to the strategic, tangible to the intangible, and from problem solving to problem framing, right? We're involved not just in the problem solving, but we're also framing the problem that needs to be solved. And that's been the trajectory of design and designers over the last few decades. Yeah. Design now also has a seat at the table, the proverbial seat at the table. If you do a Google search for Chief Design Officer in Google, and this is the image search that came up, you'll see a lot of big names out there, whether it's Johnny Ive, my friend Dan McCoskey, who was the Chief Design Officer of Lloyds Bank and United Healthcare. You've got our own Pratap Bose, who's the Chief Design Officer at Mahindra, and he was earlier at Tata Motors. And so many other fields of companies that have now got Chief Design Officers. I was also fortunate enough to be the first Chief Design Officer at Fractal Analytics, and helping set up and build a design thinking practice. So this seat at the table has already also now started happening in the last few years. Right? And last but not the least, the most important thing that people often ask, what is the business impact? Right? And that has also started happening now. This is a study that McKinsey did a few years back, and usually when McKinsey says something, people take it seriously. Right? So this is something that was published by McKinsey a few years back, where they looked at what is the impact of business, impact on the business using design. And you can see the numbers out there. Next slide. Both in terms of revenue as well as in total shareholder value. It's been a very, very demonstrable impact of using design in different fields. So the question is now, where do we go from here, right? So we spoke about the journey has been so far. And where do we now go from here? What's the journey ahead look like, right? So guess what I did? I asked ChatGPT. I said, what are the emerging design jobs that are going to be in the next 20 years, according to ChatGPT, right? What would those be? And I didn't take it on face value. I didn't just copy paste it. I made sure that it made sense. I mean, there was some level of sanity that was done on it, but I also allowed it to come up with random stuff, right? So I tried to balance that out, because we all know ChatGPT can hallucinate, right? But look at the list, right? So it's everything from AI experience designer to ethical AI designer, synthetic media designer, human AI interaction designer. Don't go by the labels, read the descriptors below that. Neuro-responsive, think Neuralink or VR. I mean, I would have never thought of this, honestly, right? I mean, that's the beauty of asking and interacting with an artificial intelligent device. Multi-sensory experience designer, digital wellness designer, regenerative systems designer, which means goes beyond sustainability, designing circular, zero-waste systems for real-world and digital products. Who would love to have that job, right? Behavioral systems designer. I was happy that my job is still going to be relevant for the next 20 years, right? I swear I didn't bias or feed that into the data, into the system. It just gave me that. Crisis experience designer. I love that one. Designing for climate disaster, refugee movements, food, water distribution, or emergency healthcare, right? Many of us would love to do something like that, right? Next slide. Next slide, yeah. And then what I did is many of us designers like 2x2 matrices. It's nice to sort of see things in context and understand how the world works. So I did a 2x2, and this, I think, is how we might be able to make some sense about how AI is going to change our world. Again, I'm not trying to predict and say that I know for sure. I don't, to be honest, but it's a provocation. So if you look at the y-axis, it's about, is is it generated by human intelligence or is it generated by AI? That's the dimension on the y-axis. And on the x-axis is about who's going to use it. Is it going to be used primarily by human intelligence or is it going to be used primarily by artificial intelligence? And at the two extremes, you can imagine, if it's at that extreme, then it's only going to be used by AI and it's made or generated by AI. Right? Next slide. So quadrant 1 is the world that we've been living in pre-ChatGPT, pre-generative AI. Right? Quadrant number 1 is our old world. Quadrant number 2 and 3 are playing out as we speak right now. And we're already beginning to see the early stages of quadrant number 4, where AI is going to create stuff for AI. You and I are not involved in that. Right? That's quadrant number 4. How many of you can make sense out of this? Are you seeing some parallels to the real world right now? Yeah? Okay, very good. Next slide. So the bottom left, quadrant 1 is what I'm calling the old way, right? It's pretty much not completely gone. We're not saying that this is oblivious, that it's gone into oblivion, but it's pretty much on its way out, right? Quadrant 2 is in transition right now. Quadrant 3 is pilot phase, and quadrant 4 is autopilot mode, right? Next slide. Then what I did is I the list of jobs that I showed you about what's going to come in the next 20 years according to ChatGPT, I mapped them on this matrix. Interesting. So you see, again, I mean, we can argue, put some jobs a little bit that side, a little bit this side, down, whatever. But just for the sake of provocation, you can see, for example, a neuro-responsive designer, it's more made by AI than made by human. But it's going to be at the intersection of for the use of human beings of AI, right? Whereas something like crisis experience designer is going to be bang in the middle, in my opinion, because I think it's going to be made by AI as much as made by human beings, and it's also going to be used by AI as much as it will be used by human beings, because crisis will need that level of, management from multiple angles. And then on the top left, if you see, for human intelligence made completely by AI, it's human AI interaction designer. A lot of that interaction design work that we do today is going to be highly automated or highly AI enabled. Next slide. And then there's more jobs that I put there, all the same list that I showed you 2 slides back, right? As you can see, the interesting pattern that's emerging is the top left has become very heavy. And I think that doesn't mean that the top right is empty. It just means that we haven't discovered what's going to come on the top right. But one thing is sure, that the stuff in the bottom is going to slowly move to the top. It's a matter of when and not if. Now, and again, I'll say this is biased in one way, which is that this is heavily biased towards digitally, digital focused solutions. Now, if you look at something like a railway station or a train, for a train to become a mass transport system, for it to become AI enabled, is obviously going to take much longer than, let's say the app that you're using on your phone. So the more physical world stuff will take longer to move towards, the AI world that we're thinking about. But it will happen. It's only a question of when. It may take longer because of those physical devices or physical systems might need much bigger infrastructure and much better upgradation and cost. And therefore they may take time. Healthcare will take a little longer because it's highly regulated. But it is going to happen irrespective of the industry. It's just the time that will change, and then slowly things will move to the top. Next slide. And so I wanted to provoke now, some of you might have seen the previous list of jobs and said, yeah, right, I mean, this is not going to happen. Neuro-responsive designer, are you kidding me? Like, what is this shit, right? How many of you felt like that? Come on, be honest. Some of you thought of that. So for that, I wanted to share with you, when I started my career in 1997, when many of you were not born by then, right? To put it in context, when I started my career at that time, jobs did not exist or were mainstream yet. My good old friend ChatGPT to answer that question. But I still verified it and made sure that, in my experience when I started my career, did these jobs exist or not? And that's what it did. So look at this list, right? UX designer did not exist. I'm not kidding you. It was barely emerging in the mid 90s. When I started my career in 97 looking for an interaction design job, there were no like avenues for looking for that kind of job. One was just lucky if one got that kind of a job. Right? So, and again, all the other jobs, mobile app designer, product designer, data visualization designer, this didn't exist in 1997. So what you imagine as possibilities about what could be, post AI world, some of them we may be able to speculate right now, and some of them we have no idea. They're going to emerge in the next few years, and a lot of you will be the pioneers of that, to be honest. Next slide. So I wanted to turn to one of the management gurus who I look up to, and I was lucky enough serendipitously to meet him just 2 nights ago randomly in a hotel in Bombay. This gentleman by name Ram Charan. He's Fortune magazine calls him the world's most important consultant to CEOs, to global CEOs. Ram Charan he advises the biggest CEOs in the world, whether it's the CEO of GE, the CEO of Pepsi, these are large, big companies with billions and billions of dollars. He advises them and they look at him for advice. So that's Ram Charan, okay? He's 85 years old. He's been consulting for 50 years, and before that, he was a professor at Harvard. And he's written like 30 odd books on management. An amazing guy. So he said this: in a world of noise and uncertainty, those who recognize patterns, anticipate change, and act decisively will lead the future. I thought this was such a fascinating statement, right? And again, of course, I have a bias. I'm a designer, as most of you are. And I said, I'm seeing some parallels here. Next slide. What are the places where designers can actually fit into some of these things? And I'm not saying this in a like as if only we can do this. No, I don't mean it that way. But I think we can do some parts of this. We can play a significant role in this. Recognizing patterns. It's all about design research. It's about synthesis, right? We've all learned synthesis in our classes at some point. The idea of seeing patterns, that's synthesis. That is classic design practice, design training. Behavioral insights, anticipating change. We do that through ideation, looking at what if, looking at explorations, looking at scenarios. We do prototyping, sketching, visualizations. That's all about anticipating the future, right? The stuff that doesn't exist today. And we act decisively through prototyping. One of the things that designers are so good at and natural at compared to all other disciplines is prototyping. And that's really about building and exploring futures and acting decisively. Next slide. So now the question is, chapter 3, how do I prepare for this? And I'm saying I very meaningfully, by the way. It's each of you and it's me too, because it's not like I know for sure that this is the way the world of AI is going to play out and how it's going to change our world. I'm figuring it out as much as you are. Next slide. So a few personal stories that I'm going to share with you before I tell you how I think I'm preparing for this. And because I'm in a design school, I couldn't help kind of get nostalgic. Next slide. When I was in my 9th or 10th grade, I decided and I became very clear that I wanted to get into design. And someone, my dad's friend or someone told him that there is something called National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad. And I had no idea why, but I said, no, this is the place I need to go to. Don't ask me why. Of course, the fact that I would escape engineering and physics and chemistry and math was an added bonus. That's the reason I gravitated towards that. But it felt like a calling. And I said, this is the place I need to get to. I don't care. And I was literally the only one in my entire batch who did not apply for engineering. Like, people thought I'm weird. Like, you're not going to do engineering? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, are you a loser? Right? How many of you can relate with that? Right? So that was my aspiration. I thought I'll get into NID. Of course, life has its own plans as we are busy making our own plans. The universe dispenses those plans. Next slide. I didn't get into NID, and I ended up at Loyola College in Chennai, and I did an undergraduate program in visual communication. It's a design degree, but it was just the 5th or the 6th batch at that time. And this was back in 94, 97, that time, right? So next slide. No, I think you missed one slide. Yeah. This is the department, by the way. There was no department. It was a cow shed that was turned into a department. This is literally the building that you see at the back. That's a cow shed. I mean, thankfully now they've moved into a proper building. But the institution, go back one slide. Loyola is, 200-year-old institution, is fantastic, great place. And when I was studying there, that's when the internet came to India, mid-90s. And I was lucky because my elder brother was a software engineer. So because he was using computers and he had learned computer science and he was getting into software, because of that, we had an old desktop PC at home, which used to like move at the speed of a snail. But it had internet, right? I had a student internet account for 500 rupees, which would also move at the speed of nothing. But the point is, I got access to the internet through that, and that was a huge world that opened up for me. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to get into interaction design. But there was no clue how I would do it. There was no one to teach me. There was no one to go and ask the questions about what do I learn in this. And no one in my faculty had a clue. Right? So in my final year project, I chose an interaction design project where I said I'm going to redesign this website for some particular media publication. I forget now which one. And that was my final year project. My faculty didn't know how to evaluate me, but credit to them, they were progressive enough to allow me to do that as a project, even though that was completely outlandish at that time. Everybody else was doing something to do with graphic design, advertising, filmmaking, all of that stuff. And I was this odd one out doing something on computers. But that's what I did, and that was my curiosity, and that was my experiment. Not that I called it those things at that time, but that's what it was at that time. Next slide. Now, how did I look for a job? I had no idea. So I used to follow this website called rediff.com. How many of you know rediff.com? Many of you might have used Rediff Mail at some point in the past. It's obviously dying now, unfortunately. But rediff.com was a big internet portal that was the equivalent of Yahoo back in that time in India. And it's the only thing that I could think of. So I said, what if I could design websites for them? Right? I had no idea. I was barely 19, 20 years old, sitting in Chennai. I had no access to like whatever. I had no idea. So I sent an email to the CEO at rediff.com. His email address was on the website. I'm not kidding you. I literally, 19-year-old, 20-year-old boy sitting in Chennai, I'm sending an email to him, CEO at rediff.com, can you give me a job? And he replied. I'm not kidding you. He replied. Ajit Balakrishnan, he replied. And he sent me a train ticket to come to Bombay to meet him and interview with him. I mean, like, I had no idea that was going to happen, right? Anyway, long story short, I ended up finding that interaction design job in an internet firm in Bangalore. That was my first job. Next slide. And eventually I came to this came to my so-called dream job up until that time, which was at this company called Sapient, which is one of the first, like the pioneering internet design firm in the US. And I got to work with some really fabulous designers at that time in 99, 2000. And I learned a lot at that time. So all of that happened because I had no idea. There was no playbook. I experimented. I put myself out there. I tried a few things. Some things worked, some things didn't. And through that, I learned, and I eventually got to do what I wanted to do. And there was no playbook at that time about interaction design, UX. None of this stuff existed, right? Next slide. Now, cut to a few years later, my next story, 2007. By then, I was fascinated with this idea of design thinking, and I was young enough and stupid enough to think that I will start a company like IDEO in India. Okay, I was in my early 30s at that time. I thought, I have 10 years experience now. I can do this. I've figured it all out. And so I started this company called Onward Research and Innovation. I found this screenshot, by the way. There's something called the Internet Archive. You can search in the Internet Archive for websites that have been online 10, 20, 30 years back. You have to be a little lucky, but I got lucky. And this screenshot was there from then. And this is what the website looks like. I'm embarrassed to show this website, but anyway, that's not the point of it. The point of it is that I started this company thinking this is going to be the IDEO of India. And of course, wisdom prevailed in a couple of years. I ran out of a lot of money. I burnt a lot of money actually, and had no work. And I decided that I better close down this company for the betterment of humanity and myself. And I got back to a job. Next slide. But But 2 years or 3 years later, I found my dream job with IDEO when they hired me as one of the design directors in India. And so, again, I did not anticipate this. I had no idea. It's not like I had a playbook and I knew step 1, step 2, step 3. But me starting my own company at that time was a foolish experiment. But did it pay off in one way at that time? No. It set me back by at least 20 lakhs in 2 years. And I didn't even have that much money at that time. But in another couple of years, it more than made up for that experiment because I grew by leaps and bounds and I got my dream job at IDEO. So that's the takeaway from that. Next slide. Now I'm going to share with you one last story. It's a story of a gentleman by name Pandit Ji. Okay. A couple of years back, next slide. A couple of years back, we bought a house, and it was the first house that I bought. So me and my wife decided to, gentlemen, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is Pandit Ji. Pandit Ji is from Rajasthan, by the way. That's another reason why I picked this story. He works as part of a team of contractors. So there's carpenters and painters and all of these people. So we bought this house a couple of years back, and we decided to, do a lot of work in that house. And so we got this contractor, and this Pandit Ji was part of that guy's team. Now Pandit Ji is a painter, okay, among all this whole team. Except this guy is not a painter, okay, not like a random painter, not like one of those urban club type of people. So this guy sits, and this is a picture of one of the. It's a puja room that was being prepared. So he was working on that at that time. He works on something like this for weeks. Like what you see him polishing there, he does that for weeks. He's just standing there in the same place, day after day, day after day, day after day, polishing, then sanding, polishing. He's at it. And he puts on his headphones first thing in the morning when he comes here and he starts the work. By the end of the day, his jeans start slipping slowly below his waist. Gross sight, but the point is he's lost in his world. He's got headphones in his ears. He doesn't know what's happening around him. The rest of his crew, all the other carpenters and painters, they know that Pandit Ji ka kuch nahi hone wala hai. And he's sitting there painting, and he will not rest. After 3-4 days, we get fed up and like, Pandit Ji, isko chhodiye, bahut ho gaya, khatam ho gaya, it's ready, ho gaya. Nahi, iska grain theek se dikh nahi raha hai. And he'll be at it. And for me, that was such an amazing reaffirmation of the need for craft, for being passionate about really going deep. And going deep to the extent that you really know your stuff. That is Pandit Ji. Next slide. Next slide. So the question is therefore, how do we prepare ourselves? How do I prepare myself? How I have prepared myself right from the time the internet first happened in India, when no one had a clue what would happen. Just like now the AI world is unfolding in front of our eyes. The few things that I have done, which I have learned in hindsight, and I felt like it has helped me, is 5 things. 1, next slide. Curiosity. Curiosity instead of fear. Experimentation instead of expectations. Excellence and depth instead of skimming the surface. This is where Pandit Ji's story is so important. You've got to go deep. If you don't go deep enough, you're just skimming the surface, and that's not good enough. Passion for design instead of chasing success. It's been 28 years now since I've been in this field, and I'm still bloody excited about it. I have no idea how it's going to unfold in the next 10 years, 20 years. But I'm very glad and grateful that I'm still passionate about it. Next slide. And collaboration and kindness. A lot of people who helped me get the kind of jobs that I did, whether it's IDEO, whether it's Dr. Reddy's, all of that happened through collaboration and kindness. And that's what has helped me in this journey so far. And I think it'll also help going forward. So while we don't know how the world of AI and everything is going to unfold, I think these are some building blocks of how it'll help, how you might figure this out along with all of us. Thank you. That's it. Next slide. This is a QR code because we all like QR codes nowadays. and you can take a, you can go to the website where we have a toolkit that's available for download on behavioral design by Ritual. It's a toolkit that we published on how do you create transformation in behavior through rituals, and built. We created this out of research that we did ground up. Thank you so much. You've been a very patient audience, and I'm happy to take any questions and love to, dialogue about this and see if any of this makes sense. Do we have time for questions? Yes. I don't know how we're going to. Is there a mic? Yes.
Okay. So my question goes back to when you showed that slide about the new jobs in 20 years
Yes.
for designers. So there's one specific one, designing for regeneration, circular economy and sustainable design. So I have this view that a lot of that comes from a kind of technological research, right?
Okay.
A lot of that when you talk about materials, processes.
Uh-huh.
So where exactly, apart from this, does the designer have make the most impact apart from a material choice?
I
Or-
think you're right. I mean, there will be a lot of innovation that will happen through material science that might influence regenerative thinking. But I think a lot of that is also behavioral design that we need to do, right? For example, in India, there are so many age-old practices that we used to follow that were extremely sustainable. If you go to most South Indian weddings, uh, the meal that is served in these weddings are on a banana leaf, and it makes so much sense. Everything that you eat on that leaf, there's no plate to wash, there's no plate to like buy, nothing. It just goes back and it's completely biodegradable. In fact, it's probably fed to some cows afterwards. I mean, there is complete, it's like circular design in its truest sense, way before something like circular design was framed. So for me, that is also an example of where designers can come in, which is, can we bring back some of those some of those sustainability behaviors that were there culturally rooted in the system, and make it relevant and contextual to today's life. You can't tell people to go back and just suddenly turn the clock back 100 years. That's not logical. But at the same time, can we learn from those practices, from age old rituals and practices that already existed, and contemporize them or contextualize them to today's world? A great opportunity for behavioral. Yes. Was there one more question?
I have a question.
Yes.
I always say this, that designers should create a constituency for design.
Okay.
So how does it do that? Especially with the new age variations of design that's coming up. How do we create a constituency for design?
Constant what?
Constituency.
Constituency for design.
Yeah.
You mean how do we create more demand for design? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I think one thing that I've learned that helps me is that when I'm talking to non-designers about design, to try and avoid using design speak. I think that's one starting point where to make it inclusive and to appeal to their sensibilities, and also to listen and understand their world, to get out of our world and like get into their world and try and understand. One of the things that people often ask is, why is our company called Three Big Things? We're called Three Big Things because we ask our clients, what are the three things that are keeping you up at night? And so the first question that I would love, the way we start our conversations with our clients is to understand what are they dealing with. It's not about what design can do for you. It's about what is your problem. What is the problem where you're feeling the most amount of pain, or you have an aspiration or a goal that you want to transform. Then it's up to me to figure out where can design play a role there. I think the constituency piece will happen as an outcome of that kind of a conversation. I think more often than not, we designers get caught up in our own language, our own vocabulary, and our own needs. And that's probably why we end up distancing ourselves from non-designers, and then it becomes a issue of constituency. I'm waiting for some more of the Gen Z to ask me questions. Or would love to hear some responses to whatever I shared. Yes? No? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. It's been fun. Oh, there's one more question. Okay.
It's not like a question, it's kind of a response.
Yes, please.
So, like, most of the jobs that you showed, right, they are not specific to one thing.
Yeah.
Everything is blending into each other. There will be product communication or interaction.
Yeah.
Everything's just blending into each other. Like, it's kind of really good to see that, and I think this is what's happening in our college as well, like where we are interacting with each other and kind of making solutions which are not like one dimensional or one surface.
Yeah.
It has to go to all surfaces.
Yes. Great point. Good job. I think there's also a nuance there. It is true that in the last, and it's not a new thing, right? It's been happening in, with every decade in the last few decades, and it will continue to. The lines will keep blurring. If you look at, for example, automobile design. Today, automobile design is so much more about digital coming into every aspect of the car, which wasn't possible, nor was it, even thought of maybe 10, 20 years back. And the lines are blurring between physical and digital in the car context of a car as well as other contexts. So that will continue happening. The only small nuance in that I'd like to sort of suggest to all the students here is that don't end up still being a generalist or like a really passionate about and go deep in. It's important to go and really go build your depth in that one thing. And that one thing could be a blend of a few things. But the point is that what is that one thing? And if you don't build that depth, then something like AI will easily replace you because you don't have the depth. So that's something to think about. And again, it's not the truth, it's my opinion. I have no idea whether this will play out or not, but we will know in a few years. Yes.
So the Panditji story I really love.